Welcome to United We Spay, the show dedicated to promoting affordable spay-neuter services nationwide. Each episode delves into the heart of the movement, sharing inspiring stories and driving positive change. Our goal is to raise awareness, educate, and empower, addressing overpopulation's root causes to ensure every animal has a chance for a better life. Hosted by Stacy LeBaron and the United Spay Alliance team, we're on a mission to change lives. Fed up with the fixation on symptoms in the animal welfare conversation, it's time to change the narrative. Join us on United We Spay, where we make a difference by spreading knowledge and building a compassionate world for animals. Let's put prevention first and spotlight spay-neuter in the animal welfare space.
You're listening to United We Spay, a podcast from United Spay Alliance. United Spay Alliance works to promote accessible, affordable, and timely spay-neuter services because an ounce of prevention today can prevent untold suffering tomorrow. Spay-neuter, it's public health for pets. I'm Stacy LeBaron, United Spay Alliance board member and host of the show. Today on United We Spay, we are speaking with Dawn Wilkinson. Dawn has worked in professional, for-profit, and not-for-profit roles for over 30 years. In those years, her expertise has been financial and operational turnaround, program development, and acquisition. She has spent the last 25 years in nonprofit management, ranging from healthcare, the arts, and historical preservation to her most recent position in animal welfare for the last 6 years. Her leadership at the Humane Society has resulted in a $400,000 plus expense reduction over 2 years and an increase in program revenue, donations, grants, and services for the animals. She also works with state and local governments on legislative efforts that benefit all of South Carolina's animals. She loves her family and her pets and currently owns 3 crazy cats and a sweet yellow lab. She resides in Lexington, South Carolina with her husband, Jim. They have a son and a daughter, both in college, and another son who's a future veterinarian. Dawn, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
So you have been in a lot of different fields in the business space. How did you become so passionate about spay-neuter and, get involved becoming the executive director of the Humane Society in South Carolina?
So it is actually a unique path to this place. I've always had a love for animals ever since I was a little girl. My mother would save every animal that she could, every turtle, every bird. We healed squirrels. We always had animals around. We always had cats. We had dogs. And I always had a respect and love for all animals. I actually had a turtle for close to 20 years. My history was really started young with animals. When I completed my degree is actually in accounting. I went to work for healthcare for my first 10 years doing turnarounds. So basically going into hospitals that were ready to shut their doors and do operational and financial turnarounds. And that really you got to do things quick, you got to be precise and calculate it with what you do so that you ensure the business is ongoing. With that experience, I developed really a fondness for nonprofits and their missions, and therefore moved a little more into that after leaving doing consulting. And that happened really when I started having children, because you just couldn't travel all the time when you had small children. So I went into that and really found that was kind of my niche and how I really like things. And so how I categorize it to people is that I really wasn't an animal lover who went through this path to become the executive director of the Humane Society. I am a professional nonprofit executive, and one of my passions is animals. And that is where I gained, that passion. I resonated with the Humane Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in South Carolina, their mission, because I always spayed and neutered my pets. That was something I was brought up to do. And that was just part of caring for an animal. So I didn't really know any better, coming into this. And then the other aspect of our mission is to end animal cruelty and neglect. So our Humane Society in particular does not have that shelter adoption component. We can serve that funding for spay and neuter access, for investigations of animal complaints of animal cruelty and neglect. And since I've been in this role over 6 years now, I'm proud of where, we've gotten to, and I'm proud of where we're going, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. So when I first came on board, I moved here from Chicago, and in Chicago, there was like one animal welfare organization in the county. It's just not a huge overpopulation problem up there. In fact, people would want cats and they couldn't find them, so they would steal other people's cats. So it amazes me now that happened, but that's kind of where it came from. So when I came here, I thought this is going to be easy. Well, little did I know that in the South, it's quite a different issue, and that there are animals everywhere and a numerous amounts of animal welfare organizations. So I knew that presented a little challenge with what we were doing, but I wanted to make sure we still maintained our niche and we met our mission of ending animal cruelty, neglect, and overpopulation.
So just for scale, how many spays and neuters are you doing annually at your clinic?
So last year we were able to accomplish about 8,800. This year, our goal is to spay and neuter over 10,000. So we do have a full-time veterinarian that's, does extremely well in high volume, high quality spay neuter. And we have been educating a pool of relief vets, and hopefully we'll hire another full-time vet towards the end of the year. We are also going to expand our surgery. So that journey has been one where before I even started, I was handed the keys to a building and a $1.1 million renovation plan for it. And then quickly realized the organization would not be able to sustain something like that, and had to kind of backtrack and just come into the space utilizing half of it, and then moving forward later on with renovating the back half of the building into a larger spay neuter holding and recovery area, prep and recovery area. And that's what we're in the process now. We've just engaged an architect from Animal Arts to do the drawings for us, and we're excited. My board is excited. We've got some funding in place, and we're going to move forward.
Wonderful. That's great news. Super, super news. So wearing your business hat, which is wonderful, being a professional nonprofit executive, looking at your nonprofit like it is a business. My first question for you is, why is it good to look at our nonprofits like a business? And what does that mean to you? Because some people think, oh, well, you're a nonprofit, you shouldn't be thinking like a business.
And I hear that a lot also. Everyone says, well, you get your grants, you get your donations. But, the way you have to think about it is, if those two items dried up for you tomorrow, would you be able to continue on with your mission? And how long would you be able to continue on? When nonprofits are audited, they're audited with a premise of what's called a going concern. And that audit standard basically says that the nonprofit should have enough funding to go 12 months or more if they did not get one more dollar of money in, either through contributions or grants or program revenue. So you want to have your organization healthy enough that you don't fail that standard. And so it's important to take a look at it like a business, because you have a fiduciary duty as a nonprofit to your donors, to the people that donate those dollars, to make sure that those dollars are being put to the best use possible that they can. And so making sure that you reduce any operational inefficiencies, reduce expenses, kind of really just like a regular company would, kind of cut out that waste so that you are, number one, able to sustain and keep going, and number two, you're being diligent with your donors' dollars.
So, in your bio here, and we were talking a little bit about it before the recording, you were really did some significant reductions of the expenses that you had there. So I would assume there was some low-hanging fruit and then some expenses that were harder to find that you needed to cut. So for those of us who are managing budgets, what are the things we should be looking at first?
So obviously, the largest part of an organization's budget is usually salary and wages. So that is one area where, I took a look at first. I took a look at overtime dollars being paid and why they were being paid, and ended up changing the actual operating hours of our organization to eliminate the overtime. And that part, it was slightly mismanaged. Another reason it was being mismanaged was the record keeping system used to complete payroll. And it was a manual system. It was subject to a lot of mistakes. And I ended up acquiring a payroll software where everything was electronic, time and date stamped. And that really helped to curb a lot. Along with that, employee manual had to be evaluated. That was one of the first things I did. It had not been updated in 10 years. So all of that had to be updated, those policies revisited, and to ensure that it met with what the current business needs were. The second thing was job descriptions. Taking a look at everyone's job description, classifying them correctly for workers' comp insurance. In South Carolina, we are self-funded. So we pay our workers' comp premium, and that premium is based on the amount of salaries that we pay, and making sure that they are classified correctly so that it goes in line with what we should pay for worker comp insurance. So that was another area. That's one big area. The second piece, especially for us running a spay-neuter clinic, was medical supplies. And that is one where I preach to everyone about this, is that this is where you can gain so many operational efficiencies. So if you have a spay-neuter clinic, in this day and age, you do not have to offer every product out on the market in-house. You don't. Streamline your inventory. Take a look at what your clients are. Our clientele in this part of South Carolina are low middle income brackets that are utilizing our services. I knew they weren't going to pay for the higher priced products. So it did not benefit us to purchase sleeves of that, because you've got to purchase each size and a case of each when you do this to keep it stocked. And when I came on board, I found half of our products were out of date and we couldn't even sell them. We weren't even allowed to sell them at that point. So we streamlined our inventory and kept to about 5 or 6 products that we carry, and that is it. We enacted an online pharmacy. If they want something different, then they can order it from the online pharmacy. We happen to put ours through Patterson, but I know Covetrus has one. Almost any of your large medical suppliers have an online pharmacy option. The second thing is to meet with your medical supply representatives, the manufacturer representatives like, Zoetis or BI or Elanco or Verbac. Meet with them and say, what can you do for me? If I give you our vaccine volume, what is the lowest price you're going to give me? What can you do? For a nonprofit, they have sometimes a lot of these manufacturers have leeway. They can give you short dated product. They can go ahead and give you deep discounts or give you the highest percentage discounts. So what I found was, instead of us just ordering vaccines from one or from another based on the pricing that week that they called around and saw, it was better for us to sign an agreement for a deep tier discount if they got the book of business. And that brought our rabies shots Right now, we only pay 88 cents a rabies shot. So that really brought that cost down and enabled us to be able to provide some of those services and products for free because, cost wise, it was okay. It fit within our budget. And so we were able to provide more access to services and products because of that. So the medical supply piece, I just can't harp on it enough. There's a great program. It's called VetCve. If no one's using it, you attach all your suppliers to it and it will tell you what's available from what supplier and what price. This showed me real quickly what manufacturers did not put our discounts in because one supplier would have the discount and then say Patterson had it, but Covetrus was showing retail price. Well, I had to contact them. Okay, you got to put the pricing in for Covetrus so we could order from them. But, if you don't look at that stuff, then you don't know. Another thing that we did, and we had to lay off of it a little during COVID, but we've gotten back to it, is you do not need a vast inventory of medical supplies. You just don't. If you're a high volume spay-neuter clinic, you know what you're going to buy. You know how many you're going to go through by the amount of volume. You do a short supply. This, in turn, you may order 1 or 2 times a week, but that inventory then is rotating quickly and you're not, you're using your stuff before you're putting your new stuff in. If you order these long amounts and then order another, you got some left and then they get put in the front and, things switch back and forth. So, and this goes for anything. It goes for the products, the preventatives. This goes for vaccines, microchips. Microchips is a big one. I know people are, some organizations want to use certain microchips because they go along with the software, but you're paying for that basically. I mean, they have to maintain that API that sends from their system over to register the microchip. And so you may want to think about those things. Our system doesn't API it over and we use Clinic HQ, but we drop it to a spreadsheet and email it to them and they upload it. Same thing's done. But my chips are $4.75 with full registration and lifetime enrollment. So those are things that, you just have to really research and negotiate. And that's getting a little more thicker into the weeds. And I had to work with the techs and the managers who place those orderings to really figure out, I couldn't do this myself. Mm-hmm. I can look at the numbers all day long, but if we can't use a certain type of suture, then it doesn't matter how low a cost you get for it.
Right. How often do you have your staff do inventory?
So we do a full count inventory once a year, but we do spot checks with every order that comes in. So the spot checks are done where, we can look and see what was sold in the system. Everything has to be put in, even if you give away a free product, everything has to be put in, and then we can gauge about, where the inventory should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in general, you're talking about not carrying that much inventory. So do you say you turn your inventory over maybe every 30 days or something like that?
Oh, probably even less than that. Yes. So I think we order probably for about 2 weeks worth with each order. Now that has presented some challenges, especially with controlled substances. If they've been on back order, we've had some issues, but other than that, we've been able to maintain adequate levels. And actually, sometimes we've even had inventory to be able to give to the city shelter if they've run out of stuff, and to help them out.
On the controlled substances, are you seeing shortages there?
I know that currently we used the extended buprenorphine, the 72-hour buprenorphine for our cats, and that is on the injectable, and that is on back order. So we've had to replace that with another product.
So in addition to reducing expenses, you also have increased efficiency. by using various different tools, either software or I would assume flow within the program. What are your tips and tricks in that area?
So, when I came on board, we had an existing phone system through the local phone company. Our receptionist hand wrote all the voicemails out, and it would be 50 voicemails every morning that we came in. And, I knew that that could not be sustained long term, and that in today's technology, there are a lot of resources to help you. So we had to retire an old Microsoft server when we came on, and I decided not to get another server. I decided to do the Google nonprofit. So registered for that, got signed up, then went ahead and found a phone system that's a voice. So it's a voice over IP type of phone system. And then what I did is I actually wrote the API to Google Translate the voicemails right into an email with a voice message to a system that we use for ticketing. And so we took basically what IT companies do and help desks do, and we got a help desk software. And that help desk software is fed by the phone system, our generic email, our fax, our website forms, Facebook messaging, Instagram, everything. Everything comes to one point of communication. And then we have our staff has different logins, and they log in, and we call servicing the tickets. So we go ahead, it generates a ticket number. We can respond right from the software back out to the person inquiring. If it's a voicemail, you can't, obviously, because they called, but you see the translation, and then you could call them back. It's not listening to it, and then, you're kind of just reading it, and then boop, call it back, and then filed it away. And you're not spending time writing all that down, and then taking time to read over it again, and then taking time to call them back. So kind of creating that efficiency, because we could not keep up with the volume of phone calls. When I go to purge our call log in our phone system, in a span of 3 months, we get about 44,000 phone calls that are calling into our system. So that's the volume. Now, some of them are answered through our phone system, and we have what's called a round robin, where it'll ring different desks or go into a queue, sit in a queue and wait for the next agent to answer it if we have our queue set up. But some of that does get filtered into this ticketing system, and that really reduced where the staff spend time. So we were able to shift a lot of the appointment making, appointment changes, appointment cancellation over to the one person that handles that. And then other extraneous things, reports of cruelty. We have it goes directly to a voicemail, gets translated, puts in the ticket system, and our investigator looks at it. Our receptionist doesn't even touch that. Before, she had to listen to all of that, write it all down, leave a Post-it note, and then the person's desk was full of Post-it notes. And so this streamlined and changed some of those job responsibilities. That then enabled our techs in the afternoon to receive the calls related to aftercare of the patients, questions about surgery, questions about payment for the invoices, things like that. And so it was really redefined what everyone did and streamlined it.
And is this system expensive?
No. So we have what's called Kazoo. It's a smaller, it's not a Zen. I tried Zendesk, and Zendesk is nice, has a lot of features. We aren't savvy enough to use all those features. So Kazoo is a little step down, and it costs us $42 a month.
For all the extensions, the phone extensions and everything?
So the phone system's separate. We are on a nonprofit plan, and I pay, I think it's $299 a year for the phone system. And then that's 8 trunk lines. And then I pay Twilio. Twilio will give any charity a $500 grant to start off. That paid for our minutes for a year and a half. And I just Twilio refills maybe once or twice a year for $200. I just have it set on auto refill. And every month's minute bill mounts to about, I would say, between $28 and $32. And keep in mind, we're receiving, 15 to 18,000 calls coming through the system with that.
No,
So it's really economical. Twilio also has texting ability. I know that some systems may have that, and you can incorporate that. We haven't on our end too much because our clinic HQ, our clinical system has a texting component. And so we utilize that component with it. Another thing that we did too, and this was a big cost saver. I know a lot of nonprofits have to have a donation system, a CRM, a customer database system. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Salesforce, which is the largest company that supports companies' sales activities, gives Salesforce for free to nonprofits. And you get 10 user license with that. So I got rid of our CRM that we had. I downloaded all the information to Excel and I got Salesforce for free. And we've had it for 6 years. And I can upload into Salesforce, manually enter, or have an API send directly to Salesforce from, say, our online donation platform. Now, if I was a little more savvy with Salesforce, I could write the code and do the forms and do a lot more integration. But for me, I haven't personally had the time. And then the online donation piece, there is a software out there called VetCve, Zeffy, and it is free to use. And they don't even charge you the credit card fees. It's set up through Stripe, and everyone should have a Stripe merchant account, nonprofit Stripe merchant account. The rates are lower. And we use the Zeffy for all of our online forms. We're actually selling Halloween t-shirts on it, at this time. So that is another way that we reduce, because we were paying for online donation and then a CRM to put it in, both checks and everything else. And so this kind of eliminated both, and Zeffy can send the information over to Salesforce and it's automatically put in. Now, I paid for that API, but it was a one-time fee, once and done.
Right. Wow. Amazing. Amazing what you're doing. That's just incredible. Thank you for sharing. That was a master class in administrative office management, really. So looking at your budget, how much fundraising do you have to do for your program?
So the majority of our budget is our program service revenue. And we also, with our grants, and then we have some trust payments that come in. So we meet the 85% threshold for a public charity. So with that, we do one event now, one major event a year. We do mailings, but I don't overwhelm everyone with mailings. Now, I'm a little different than other nonprofit executives. I don't do the reactive fundraising where, every sad looking animal's put out there and, oh, we need this money today, or we don't do that. We do proactive fundraising where we show what we have done and how we need to continue on. So, since we don't house animals, we don't really have that, need. Now we do cruelty investigations, and yes, we do seize animals that are pretty bad looking, but typically we usually give them to a rescue or a shelter to be the custodian. And then we go ahead and process the investigation, and we don't want to compromise that. So we really just don't put that information out there unless we need information from the public for a case. Mm-hmm. So, I would say we're probably right above probably 17, maybe 20% of our revenue is from contributions.
Excellent. So if folks had only, one takeaway from listening to the conversation that we're having today, what should it be?
Don't feel defeated when you look at your budget and think you can't change it. You can. You need to sometimes dive a little deep to do it, ask a few more questions, maybe even for municipal shelters or shelters that are connected to a government, call that IT department, call the purchasing department, call who you need to call. They will probably want to help you with that. So that's probably the biggest takeaway. I hear a lot of people say, well, my budget's my budget and I can't change it. And that's not accurate. You always can change it.
And if folks are interested in finding out more about your organization and the work that you do, how would they find you?
So our website is humanesc.org. You can visit us there. We have a website form. You can send us an inquiry. You can send us emails. So go to our ticketing system and get serviced with everything else.
Go check it out. Yeah, I think it sounds like a great idea. There's so many phone calls and emails that come through the wires. That's for sure that, if we can be more efficient, and now with AI, there may even be so much more that can be handled out in the cyberspace, and then we can focus on really projects and the work that we need to focus on and let AI handle sort of the lower hanging fruit.
Yes. And, it's a great compliment to an organization when someone says, you know what, I called 10 places, but you were the only ones to answer me. And, that makes us feel good. Whether that answer is what they want or not, at least we gave them an answer, and usually in a timely fashion. And that's really what we strive for.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dawn, for joining us today. And thank you, folks, for listening. If you like this episode, be sure to share and subscribe. We'll be releasing a new episode each month, digging into important conversations surrounding spay-neuter throughout the U.S. and around the world. For more resources for spay-neuter and to learn more about our work at UnitedSpayAlliance.org, that's UnitedSpayAlliance.org. If you'd like to get in touch with us at any time, feel free to email info@UnitedSpayAlliance.org. Until next time, thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.